We love Classical Conversations.
Your organization is known worldwide, and we certainly appreciate every facet that you do.
I do believe in what you're doing because I've seen it in my family.
I'm so excited about all the things that, Robert, you guys do with Classical Conversations. It's been a huge blessing for our family.
Grateful for the work at Classical Conversations. You're a leader, and you have been in this movement for a long time.
I do feel like I have a debt of gratitude to you, your family, all of CC for just the fruit that has come from CC.
Appreciate all that you guys do, both through this wonderful podcast and also through Classical Conversations, which I am convinced is the best education resource out there. Thank you very much for all that you do for the cause of Christ and for our families and for our children. Really, really appreciate it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Refining Rhetoric. Today, I'm excited to have Kimberly Fletcher on with us. She is the wife of a retired Air Force officer, mother of 8 children, but you probably know her organization, Moms for America and Moms for America Action. She has over 20 years of experience in grassroots activism, and she has grown Moms for America into a powerful platform building grassroots networks across the country. Kimberly is an author, columnist, radio host, and contributing writer to townhall.com, and she's been featured in numerous media outlets, including The Blaze, Newsmax, OAN, The Rush Limbaugh Show, Fox News, and now the amazing Refining Rhetoric podcast. So she's finally made it to the top. But she is on a mission to educate and inspire the women of America to realize their immeasurable worth and powerful influence in our country and culture simply by being who they are. Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love the name of the show. We need more common sense conversation, so I like that.
Yeah, that's part of the plan is just to get that, not just rhetoric, because rhetoric has such a negative connotation, but a refining rhetoric, because, you know, from our classical education standpoint, being good at rhetoric and having the skills of rhetorical skills is so vital to keeping freedom and liberty alive in America. And I know you've been working on that for the last 20 years and probably even before that. So yeah, how did you get a vision to get this started? And can you just tell us a little bit about the organization and your background?
Sure. So it was 9/11. That was my wake-up call. I guess I've always been patriotic. I pledged the flag. I did the 4th of July thing. But that was the day that I went from being patriotic to being a patriot. My husband was stationed at the Pentagon, and through a series of God-given miracles, he came home that day. And it changed me. And I started to ask a lot of questions. How did we get here? Why did this happen? And the more questions I asked, the more I learned I didn't know. And I just wanted to find everything out I possibly could on America's history, our heritage, the Constitution, the stories of the patriots, the lies that I've been told. And I just loved everything I was learning. And I started homeschooling my children and sharing what I was learning with them, and learned even more. And it was from 2001 to 2004. I tell everybody it was like being under the tutelage of God, and learning everything that I needed to know, so that when he put it on my heart that I was supposed to start a national organization, me, a mom, a homeschool mom, and what do I know about any of this? And I remember asking, once I realized it was coming from God, and I'm like, that's crazy. I don't know anything about that. And I just kept asking the Lord, why me? There are so many people who know so much more and can do a much better job. And one day he just put the answer on my heart, and he said, yes, but they'll do it their way, and I want it done my way. And he knew I'd have to do it his way, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I spent every day on my knees trying to figure it out. But God qualifies who he calls. And he put all the right people in my path, all the experiences that I needed to have, so that it wasn't just what I knew, but it became who I was. And it was like baptism by fire, completely embracing the idea and realizing that all of the things that we think are problems are the symptom of the problem. And the problem is that we are having an identity crisis. All the countries around the world are having an identity crisis. But our country, I mean, the light to the world having an identity crisis, that's a problem. And how do you get that identity back? you touch the hearts of mothers. And if home is the center of society and mother is the center of the home, the woman is the center of the home, and we want to lift society, then we need to lift the mom. And that's really where this mission came from, was going in and helping moms realize what America's about, why it's worth fighting for, what is their incredible influence, and how we have the ability to change the world simply by being who we are.
No, and God has given mothers an important task in this world. My mom, and it's from a poem, and I can't remember it, but she always says, "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." And I tweeted out the other day that homeschool moms should be being hired by Fortune 500 companies to run their businesses when they empty nest, because they're the smartest people, hardest working, most ingenuitive people out there making it work. So yeah, how was that homeschooling, starting an organization, kind of getting the passion and just the confidence to go out and do this? How did you manage all of those things?
I think really, when I would get up and I would just start speaking what was in my heart, and that's the answer. Anybody who feels like they're being called to something, follow it, and then just speak from your heart, because it isn't just what you know. And people are telling me all the time, it's like I'm a walking encyclopedia, and I'm like, I don't. It's just who I am. I've embraced these ideas. I can roll off quotes off the top of my head because they mean something to me. And the founding fathers mean something to me. And it wasn't just the founding fathers, it's the founding families. So when I would be given an opportunity to speak, I'd just speak my heart. And I started to realize that it was touching other people's hearts. And then it just kind of rolled from there until I remember the first time I was asked to do a radio interview. I was like, how do you do that? I Google everything now. People are like, how do you do this? I don't know. I Google it. When we need a new position on the organization, I'm like, well, somebody must have created a job description for that. So I Google it, so, so I get on the radio and they ask me questions and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just doing the same thing, just on the radio. The first time I was on national TV, that one was kind of funny. It's different now since COVID because I can do it right from my own home, whether I'm on Fox or CNN or whatever. But back then, they sent you to a studio and you had makeup artists and all this other kind of stuff. And the first time, it was during the Kavanaugh confirmation, and we were fighting to have that confirmation go through, and being the counter voice to those crazy psycho women who were up there just destroying everything. And so I was asked to be on the Martha McCallum show. And when I came in, they stick you in this little closet. They put you in a chair. They put a microphone on you. And they're like, okay, you're just going to look right here at the camera and just talk. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, when will I see her? You won't see her. I'm talking to a blank screen. Okay. So you got to give grace to all these people when you see them on TV and they're doing these interviews and they look like they're staring into space. They are. You don't see anything. So that was an experience. But it was just the confidence of knowing that what I felt and believed in my heart to be true was right. But the real trick is learning how to talk to people in a way where you're not just right. That doesn't work. If you just walk in a room, of course, killing babies is wrong. Who wouldn't think that? But the message has been resonating for 50 years. We're not going to turn that around by coming in and saying you're killing babies. So you have to be able to know how to go to a person's heart, go where they are, and bring them where you want them to be. Touch their hearts and minds. That is how we change the culture. And that's a lot easier to do than just coming in with facts and statistics and graphs and diagrams. You come in and you touch their heart. You got other people who can come in and back up everything you're saying once you open their heart. And that's what we do, is we touch hearts and minds.
Yeah, the left has done a better job telling stories and than the right has. And yeah, we come in with the statistics or whatever, but when you have a touching heart, it says more than statistics. And so
And
it's
I'm glad
important to
you
have
said stories, because that is literally how we can change the country. That is how the left, the communists have been doing it. We've been fighting principle with policy, and that's why we lose these battles. We need to fight principle with principle, because when we do, freedom wins. And we do that by sharing the story of freedom, by giving them personal examples of what tyranny and oppression and communism really looks like. And it is the story, whether it's the story of our country, the story of the patriots that founded it, the story of your own family, the story, your birth story. I tell moms all the time, tell your kids their birth story. It connects them to you, so that when the world is trying to throw these nefarious ideas on them, they're like, oh, no, I'm tethered to a story. That is how we reclaim our culture, through the stories.
Yeah, that's so important. And like with my family, my mom has always been, especially recently, trying to reconnect and learn our family story, because some of it's, some of our family came over on the Pilgrims, and then some of them came over after World War II, and even now for myself, sharing those stories with other people. And some people are like, why are you so passionate about fighting communism or socialism or some of these big government ideas? And my wife, her grandfather was a Jew in Germany during World War II, and they were able to get out at the beginning of Hitler's reign. I have family that was in Latvia that was taken over by the Russians and then taken over by the Germans during World War II. And so I said, my grandparents have had to shoot their way out of communism, on both sides of our family. And so it's not something that's hypothetical to me. What is your family story? And a lot of people don't have that background. And like you said, they've been disconnected. And so it's really easy to, the left, it's in their playbook, destroy the family, destroy their heritage. And so that people get used to having the state be their, father and mother from birth to death, from cradle to grave. And so, yeah, telling stories, I think, is a powerful thing. What has, I want to talk a little bit about, what's going on. So, you're in there, that first Trump administration, then we had Biden, and the second Trump administration now is getting off to a really hot start. What are some of the things that you all are trying to get accomplished or hope gets accomplished? I guess the first 100 days or this second Trump administration from an activist standpoint. You've mentioned pro-life, you've mentioned identity. What are some things that you think are important for us to do to save ourselves?
Yeah, I feel like we're on a light rail, which is fantastic because we don't even have to get to the first 100 days, and we're knocking it out the park one after another. I love getting the emails directly from the communications department at the White House, and every morning I've got 5 or 6 things, or president's doing this, or president's doing that, and his executive orders. And it's just like, God love him. One of the things that I really respect and love about the president is he is not doing executive orders as a legislative act. A lot of President Obama and President Biden, they both did that. And he comes in and he's like, no, I have executive orders that affect the executive branch, and that's what we're going to do. So all these people around the country are like, oh my gosh, the president just said that transgenders cannot play in sports. I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm all for transgender sports. Start a transgender sports team. Good luck funding that and getting people to want to watch it. But stay out of women's sports. This is about men and boys. And they can call them transgender, whatever they want till the cows come home. This is about keeping men and boys out of women's sports and our safe spaces. But the president didn't say, you all can't do that anymore. The president has no authority to do that. No authority, no jurisdiction at all to tell a school district, a school, a county, whatever, what to do. The only thing that the president has the ability to do is bribe and blackmail us with our own money.
Right.
Well, for decades, that is what the left has been doing. Do our nefarious policies, do our nefarious actions, do furries in the classroom, this nonsense that's going on. And they've been incentivizing or penalizing school districts, counties, states based on their own agendas. And so I'm like, okay, my whole goal is to get rid of the 16th Amendment altogether, which was absolutely unconstitutional until they shoved it in. The direct taxation of the American people should not be a thing. It never was. The founders would be rolling in their graves knowing that this is happening. But until we can get rid of the 16th Amendment, then let's focus on what avenues we have and what tools we have in our arsenal. And that is what the president is doing. And we're fully behind him. If you are a school, or if you are anybody that is accepting federal government funds and you try to shove boys in a girl's locker room or in a sports, you're going to lose your funding. That is how they have done it on the left. That's how we're going to do it to get things back on track. I want to see the Department of Education completely dismantled. But before we do that, we have to have a full audit of the system. Where did the money come from? Where did it go? What policies were pushed? So that we have some time to redirect those policies all the way down to the state and local level, and then shut the whole department down. Once that department shut down, I'm like, every department is on the chopping block. Let's see what needs to go. So this is like rapid fire. I mean, we have 2 solid years, hopefully 4, because in 2026, our goal and objective will be to make sure we hold ground and take more ground. The American people are not at all in lockstep with the crazy nonsense that is being pushed by the Democrat Party that is run by Marxist communist ideologies. They are against that. But a lot of people have been confused or bamboozled, or they just don't know what communism actually is, what socialism actually is. They don't realize that what they're asking for is going to hurt them. And so our goal for the next 2 years is to restore this understanding of what freedom really means. And my big exciting thing of all the things that President Trump is doing, the thing that just sets my hair on fire and gets me excited is America 250. This is an opportunity for us to spark a resurgence of patriotism. Why America is so unique in all the world. Why freedom matters. Why communism is not the answer. And not just say what's wrong, but give them what's right. And I was 10 years old in 1976. I remember what it was like that year. It was an infusion of patriotism across the country. And everyone from Tupperware to Jack Daniels created some kind of commemorative piece, which now sits in my living room. I think I own stock in eBay. And I want to see that again. So that is of all the things that we're doing, holding the line, pushing back, yes, but let's bring something up that's positive. And we can do everything from a national constitution be to a national fair and everything in between on the state, local, and national level. That, of all the things we're doing, is what excites me the most about this next term.
Have you heard the news? National Memory Master and National Commencement are moving to the Classical Conversations Family Cruise in 2026. This cruise isn't just a place to celebrate CC graduates and Memory Masters, but a cruise for all CC families to enjoy their time together. You can connect with CC leaders and families at all stages of their journeys and turn an educational experience into a fun, memorable adventure as you explore the Bahamas on the Royal Caribbean's Freedom of the Seas in 2026. Check out classicalconversations.com/cruise-2026 to learn more. That's classicalconversations.com/cruise-2026. We hope to see you there.
Yeah, the 250 is so important. And I've been talking to different legislators and leaders on the need to use that to tell the American story, and not the one that the communists want to say, but the true one, and tell about our heroes and the sacrifices that they made. I want to go back to, that you're talking about Trump and the executive orders. A lot of this has to be done through Congress.
Yes.
He can get the ball rolling. He can indicate what his goals are, and we make that very clear. But Congress has the oversight, and it's allowed all this to happen under previous presidents that are Republicans, under Republican Houses and Senates. What do we need to do as grassroots activists, as leaders, to actually force the representatives to listen to us and close down the Department of Education? Because I don't think they're going to naturally do that unless they have a clear message from the people that they represent that we don't want that anymore. And we also don't want Every Child Succeeds Act and the Common Core and all of these different globalist education policies. We can't just move that to the Department of Labor. We need to cut off those policies on the federal level as well.
Oh, 100%. The first thing I would say is we need to unite together. And there are all these different organizations out there that are all different levels of understanding. And some of them are, especially I call it the 2020 class, it's a zealot class, and they kind of
Yeah.
came in saying, we know everything, and if we don't get everything, then we're just not going to support anything you do. I'm like, okay, it doesn't work that way. So we need to all come together and be able to support one another, share resources, information, ideas. And I pushed really, really hard for that during the campaign. In 2023, I started reaching out to America First Policy Institute and America First Works, saying, listen, you guys are the only entity out there that can pull off what I'm suggesting. If Moms for America came out there and said, you guys, let's all get together and let's work together, they'd be like, oh, it's just all about you. And because on the left, they're all funded. They're all funded by George Soros and company. Nobody has to worry about money as long as they're toeing the line. They're also very collective. On our side, we're very individual, and we have to convince all these the donors on our side that we need 5 pencils instead of 4. It's just absurd. So it's a constant battle to be able to survive and even thrive. Is when those who thrive are really blessed. But America First Works, America First Policy Institute, they were the entity that could have pulled it off because they didn't look at them as competition. They looked at them as an arm of the president who might be able to support them in some way. And so I reached out to them in 2023. I begged and pleaded for months until finally in November, Ashley Hyatt called me and said, okay, we're going to put this meeting together. And the first meeting was held January 4th, 2024. It was in Washington, D.C. at the AFPI headquarters. There were 7 organizations. Ashley asked me who all should be there. And I'm like, well, we definitely need to have a Turning Point. We need to have Tea Party Patriots. So who was at that first meeting was Moms for America, Turning Point Action, Tea Party Patriots, Lance Wallnow, America, AMAC Action, and America First Works. That was it. There's 7 of us. That was all there was. And we all shared, this is what we're working on. This is what we have. This is what we're doing. And then at the end of the meeting, Ashley said, who else should be here? And so we all started writing down organization names of who should be invited, who should be at the next meeting. And April 5th of last year, we had over 50 groups who were at that meeting. And we met every single week via Zoom, talking about, what we're doing, what's happening. And America First Works was able to provide us with all kinds of data. If you are not a part of America First Works, that's called the Pathway Partners, then you need to come to me and let me get you on, because the Pathway Partners is we're now over 100 groups, and the data and information that America First Works provides to us is invaluable. And it helps us know where are we going to be most effective on the legislative level, on the election level. It is Pathway Partners is absolutely an incredible network to be a part of. So that's the first thing I would say is we need to unite together. We need to pull from the information that America First Works provides, because they have the money to do all the research. They have the technology. They have the brilliant people that know, how to find the right information. And then we pull it in and we decide, how do we take that and best utilize it? We need to be present. We need to be present, but we need to be knowledgeable in our presence. It does no good whatsoever to call up a legislator and a member of Congress or state legislator and just yell at them about, this is stupid. Of course it's stupid stuff that they're doing. And of course they're wrong. But that doesn't create relationships. Phyllis Schlafly almost single-handedly stopped ERA by pies, smiles, and posters. And it was creating that alternative voice to the crazy women screaming that made the difference. We have to be building relationships now, so that when we need to call our member of Congress and say we are for or against something, they're actually listening to us. So build those relationships. Know what you're talking about. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong. Maybe it's not 100%, but maybe it's 75%. We get that and we come back. So don't think you're going to get everything all at one time. Having President Trump in the White House helps considerably. So he's pushing from his end. We need to push from our end, but it all needs to be positive and supportive. I have distanced myself from people who are just angry and saying schools are the problems, teachers are horrible, and our Congress does nothing right. And I'm like, okay, that's not helpful. And so I've distanced myself from them, and I pull in the people who are open-minded and are willing to move forward. So build those relationships, become a part of Pathway Partners, know what you're talking about, and be present. Emails, phone calls, and when we need to be present in Washington, D.C. or in your state legislature, show up. And you won't be able to show up every time, but if you have created a network in your own local community, then those who have the ability to show up will, and next time maybe you will when they can't, and there will always be someone there. So the perfect example is we picked 5 nominations for the president's cabinet that need to be confirmed, and they were the ones who were the most embattled. And Pete Hegseth was one, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, RFK Jr., and Linda McMahon. And we were at every one of those confirmation hearings. Our moms were there in purple shirts with our signs saying support RFK, support Kash Patel. And it made a difference. And the senators told me that it made a difference when they're walking in through our purple shirts right before they're going to have this hearing. It makes a difference.
You don't want to make moms mad, but if mad mom comes at them, they tend to tune it out, especially if you don't have that relationship. And you can't build a relationship on, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but if you can plan ahead of time, like for homeschoolers, I would just say, most state organizations have a homeschool day at the Capitol. Like Phyllis Schlafly, show up with some cookies and thank you for serving, even
send
if
them a
they're
birthday card. Yeah, so we have this really great program called the Family Lobby. And I tell people all the time, lobbying is not a bad thing and lobbyists are not bad people. The problem is we're not doing it. and we need to be. And you can do it in a way that is very proactive and productive, and it's fun. So I'm like, sit your kids around the table, sit your grandkids around the table, and send out 5 thank you notes. And you can do it on the congressional level and do 8 instead. But it's your member, your state representative, your state senator, your 2 senators, your congressman, your sheriff, your city council member, and just send them thank you note, thanking them for their service, whether you like them or not, whether they vote with you or not. It doesn't matter. They will remember you. And you send those cards with a picture of your family. And you do it 3 or 4 times a year. Heart attack them at Valentine's Day. At Thanksgiving, say, I just wanted to say how thankful I am for you at this time when I'm thinking about all the things I'm thankful for. Find out when their birthday is and send them a birthday card. And when you do this, you always send a picture of your family, and it's not the same picture. When you do the Valentine's, sit around and make the Valentine's with your kids, have them hold up their Valentine's, take a picture, put it in the envelope, and they will start to recognize you before you ever call for or against something. And I remember I told Congressman Steve King about this, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Kimberly, that would put that mom to the top of the hundreds of lobbyists that come into my door, because they know that she represents thousands of people that haven't called, and she is obviously connected in her community and has influence. They pay attention." And so it's like, Jane calls in and the person answering the phone says, "Hey, it's Jane on the phone." And the senator in the back is like, "What does she want? What is she calling about? Which position is she taking?" That's the difference that it makes at all levels of government, by first creating these relationships with your school board members, with your city council members, your county supervisors. Be present, create those relationships. It doesn't take that much to send a thank you card and a birthday card. And if they're local, take them out for lunch. Have Family Lobby Day in your own community and take your kids out and visit those who represent you. Those relationships are amazing, and they get things done when they feel like they're valued instead of attacked. They're going to listen to you a lot more.
Hey everyone, producer Chris here. Today we've got something special for the dads who are trying to lead their families with purpose and faith. We've partnered with Dad Tired to give away 2 free tickets to an upcoming retreat. This is a weekend designed to equip, refresh, and strengthen Christian fathers who are trying their best to walk in their Christian faith and live out their calling. Whether you're a longtime listener or you've just discovered the show, don't wait. This is your chance to invest in your personal relationship with Christ, to invest in your leadership skills with your family, and also strengthen bonds with other men who are trying to do the same. Here's how to enter. Head to the Refining Rhetoric Instagram and follow the pinned post about the Dad Tired Retreat giveaway. Follow the instructions in the caption and don't wait, because we'll be doing the drawing on July 25th. We'd love to see you there, on us. Thanks for listening to Refining Rhetoric.
That's great advice. And yeah, I'm writing some of these things down to start doing with my own family. And I try to be active and let people know that I'm praying for them and thank them, even if I don't agree with their votes, because I mean, a lot of them, most of them want to do a good job. They just they just know what they know. And they're not like policy experts, especially like on the county commissioner level. This is a part-time job and they're just trying to help the county do well. Or even things like the state house and stuff, they have full-time jobs trying to pay their bills. At least like here in North Carolina, they get paid $14,000 a year to serve in the state house or state senate. So they're not making money doing that. And
And we can't assume. Yeah, that's a very good point. We can't assume that they know what the issue actually is, because all they know is what people have brought to them, and that's why the family lobby is so important, because they need to hear from us too, and we need to pray for our leaders, because there's power of prayer. That is a real thing, and we should be praying for them. And just as an example, I was at the White House just last week and talking to some very high profile people in government, and mentioned about our foster care system and how it is a mess, and how Bill Clinton had signed a law that basically made an economic system in the foster care system, where pulling kids away from their parents and putting them in foster care families had become very lucrative for them. And they had no idea. And I said, this is why we are supporting foster care reform. And here are some of the reforms that we want. And some of them were like, well, these are no brainers. I'm like, I know, but they didn't even know about it. So if we know something, and we are, and I wouldn't say, necessarily expert, but if we've done our research on something and we know what we're talking about, we should share that information in a positive way, because a lot of these legislators at all levels of government are just blown away when the moms in our organization come and talk to them about some of these things that they're concerned about. They're like, we didn't even know that was a thing. And we're like, well, now you do. What are we going to do about it?
That's great. Well, I want to end on that high note. What are some things that our listeners can do? How do they get involved with Moms for America? What's the website, social media? We have a very short window to get a lot done, at least with this current administration, because we're going to be electing new people here in just a matter of months. People will be declaring and getting ready for primaries. And what do we got to do?
Absolutely. So you come to Moms for America. It's momsforamerica.us. All of our social media platforms are on there. We're on every platform we haven't been dumped off of. The media and social media have worked very, very hard to keep people from knowing that we exist. We've been shadow banned. We've been blocked. Vimeo shut us down, of all people. And YouTube is constantly giving us, you're X'd out 3, and if it weren't for Elon Musk, we would still be permanently suspended from Twitter. So things are changing, and this is a good time to be connected, and being connected with a tribe that you feel like, relates to you on a national level and local level. We have groups all over the country. We have state leaders in several of the states, and we want to connect with you. So come to momsforamerica.us, and yes, absolutely, men can join. We are the National Organization of Women That Love Men. So we welcome everyone, and we want to be able to work together, because we need to stand together as husbands, wives, men and women, with our sons and our daughters, to be able to support those who are trying to do the right thing in government, and be the real force, which is the family, on the ground where we are, and having a monumental impact by working together. So momsforamerica.us, come get connected.
Excellent. Everyone, we'll put that in the show notes. Before we got started, one of my friends is involved with Moms for America Action, and she's a local lady that I get to meet with often. So I'm looking forward to working closely with you all to get the president and the American people's policy done, so that we can keep America great and keep us free, because liberty has to be fought for every generation, and this is our generation's fight right now, an opportunity to make a better life for our kids and our grandkids. So just thank you so much for stepping up, listening to God's calling, and all you're doing to help us just behind the scenes and in front of the camera. So thank you so much for being on the show today. Listeners, just share this episode with a friend. Please get involved. We can't sit idly by. This is the worst time to think that we won some election, that everything's going to go our way. We have to stay involved. Continue listening to our podcast at Refining Rhetoric. We're going to keep bringing on great speakers, great people to get you activated and get you involved, not just in your family's life, but in our national conversation so that we can save our country. Until next time, God bless.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortons. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.